We've been discussing a lot of great games in 2025 across a variety of categories, celebrating a year that has seen a lot of excellent experiences join the long list of favorites that we've accumulated over the years. But as much as we hate to say it, there are a few titles that just didn't click, and now have the dubious distinction of forming the lower end of this year's releases. So let's jump into which of this year's games have made the list and why. Number 1. Call of Duty Black Ops 7. With fatigue having set into the franchise for a while now, a lackluster campaign and some heavy competition in the form of Battlefield 6, Arc Raiders, and Ready or Not, Black Ops 7 has failed to breathe new life into the franchise, and has plummeted to being the lowest ranked Call of Duty entry in history. Despite its emphasis on a more tactical gameplay loop this time around, Black Ops 7 has ultimately failed to bring any meaningful innovations that can make it stand out in a long list of titles from a franchise that could use a bit of course correction. That's especially disappointing in a year where some excellent shooters have made their presence felt. Number 2. Sacred 2 Remaster. While the original game might have been considered innovative at the time of its release, this remaster's insistence on preserving the original experience has largely backfired thanks to the passage of time. Sacred 2's clunky mechanics and dated visuals needed more than a fresh coat of paint here, and it's a game that's going to be played only for its nostalgia factor. Although it did many cool things with its setting and world, it simply doesn't measure up to the scrutiny today. The world may be unique enough to give this one some replay value, but every playthrough is such a chore that it could be very tempting to drop off the game and move on quite quickly. This one should have been a remake if it were to have any chance at all at succeeding among a very discerning crop of modern gamers. Number 3. Double Dragon Revive. Basic combat, finicky targeting, horrendous character models, and a failure to live up to the promise of a series that had been dormant for over a decade, this one was all kinds of wrong for both franchise fans and for newcomers alike. Its drab environments and lack of the flair that makes a fighter special made this one a very forgettable experience that quickly gets boring. And don't even get us started on those platforming sections. Now, we're all for a challenge in our games, but bad design being a part of that challenge is a recipe for frustration, not engagement. While it all could have been salvaged by some awesome combat, there were only so many times we could punch the air before giving up on it all. What's sad about this one is that it had the potential to be all that it promised. Countering enemy aura attacks with a special attack of your own was quite satisfying, but the minuscule timing window on those parries made pulling them off rely more on luck than on skill. As a fighting game, this one should have been very different and so much more than it actually was. Number 4. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Combining a vampire adventure with a setting that pushes you in the direction of an investigation just like a detective sounds like a great concept, doesn't it? However, Bloodlines 2 fails to capitalize on that premise. Its emphasis on sending you all around its admittedly well-crafted world does little to disguise the fact that its exploration is just so unrewarding. While the setting on offer is reasonably good here, the combat is too clunky to be entertaining, and this is a game that simply doesn't click on any level. It can even get tedious from moment to moment if you don't try and diversify what you're doing. In a year where Ghost of Yotei gave us a more nuanced take on detective work alongside a brilliant combat system, this one is sadly relegated to the shadows. Number 5. Game of Thrones King's Road. With honestly terrible recreations of popular characters from the franchise, and a gameplay loop that doesn't stay as entertaining as it is after the initial thrills of being let loose in Westeros in a well-crafted RPG world wears off. Bad character models, visual glitches, and a progression system that actively worked against players looking to make progress were all factors that broke the spell of some solid visuals. The combat gets repetitive too quickly, and as an RPG, having to manage menus more than your character arc was a drag. King's Road is an ambitious attempt to bring a popular franchise to life in the gaming world, but unlike its presence in other media, this take on Westeros fails to be one to draw the masses. It's disappointing to place this one among 2025's non-performers, but King's Road is one that's better avoided thanks to the journey being too uninteresting to be relevant. Number 6. Drag X Drive. A reasonably good gameplay loop and solid performance on the Switch 2 might have been factors being praised if this one had managed to be more interesting. With its innovative use of the Joy-Con 2's mouse mode, Drag X Drive could have been on the front lines of the console's initial push into popularity after its launch. But its high skill ceiling and unfamiliar control schemes work alongside a lack of content to keep things interesting to wall off most players from being incentivized to keep pushing forward through its gameplay loop until they get to the meat of why it can be enjoyable in the first place. However, if you're looking for a fun, unique 3v3 online title to dive into with your buddies, this one might just be worth picking up on a sale when the chance comes along. Number 7. Killing Floor 3. While the legacy this one carried might tempt you to give it a go, you're quickly going to find out that Tripwire Interactive failed to capitalize on the valuable feedback it received during the closed beta it held for it. While it can be fun on occasion, and even shines brightly when your plans for the chaotic decimation of Zeds lines up well, its lack of content makes it too forgettable to be worth it. For a game meant to be played with friends, or as a team, its solo survival mode might just be the most entertaining thing it has to offer. There was too little synergy between its playable classes for it to sustain any sort of engagement in its initial hours, though it might have garnered, and the lack of enemy types and bosses at launch meant that it soon became a rampage without consequences once we got used to its mechanics and combat. All in all, there was a lot to like, but too little of it to make Killing Floor 3 a game that holds its own against this year's heavyweights, or enough to ensure it stayed off this particular list. Tough luck anyway. Number 8. Dollhouse Behind the Broken Mirror. In a genre where the world you craft is as much a part of the experience as your story and gameplay is, Behind the Broken Mirror's poor level design and a fairly predictable and uninspired story made it rank low among this year's best horror experiences. Frustrating puzzles peppered a progression path that was often blocked thanks to a lack of clarity on potential solutions, stemming from poorly designed levels. It often felt like the game was working against us to be as frustrating as it could be, instead of with us to be entertaining. The story is similarly all over the place, and you're better off not joining Eliza on her journey to regain her lost memories. Number 9. Mind's Eye. In the end, Mind's Eye's gorgeously crafted world was ultimately where its ambitions went to die. As if its lackluster story, subpar combat, and uninspired game design weren't enough, the game's AI was simply not up to the standard of a 2025 release. Policemen would walk idly by while you slaughtered an enemy in front of them, while the lack of life among the streets you go along made the entire experience feel like a massive letdown. It's a world that feels empty despite how its vibrant colors and futuristic buildings immediately stand out as soon as you can see them. But Mind's Eye sadly doesn't populate that world with enough life to make it matter to its players. Making things worse was the lack of effective damage control from Build a Rocket Boy, and the eventual promise of a roadmap of fixes has ultimately failed to grab any attention. It's a pity, but Mind's Eye is among the biggest failures of 2025 as far as video games are concerned. Number 10. La Quimera. It's a solid premise for a shooter. Its absolutely dystopian premise and environmental storytelling might have been the stuff of a legendary game, but Reburn's early access version of a solid idea does nothing to make this game worth your time. Its story fails to raise the stakes enough to make you care, which is quite surprising considering the setting it takes place in. Its combat is similarly vanilla, giving you fairly powerful weapons and linear levels in which taking out enemies quickly became routine instead of a fight for survival in which either side could end up losing. And in what's going to be our top pick for the most annoying mechanic of the year, your mercenaries' pockets only let you carry a limited amount of money. That's counterproductive to the nature of your work, isn't it? La Quimera makes too many of these blunders to be close to the experience it could be as it stands today. Solo Leveling Arise Overdrive. While its visuals and excellent audio design might have you believing that this one is worthy of the anime that inspired it, you're going to want to temper your expectations with Solo Leveling Arise Overdrive, if you're a fan or someone with a passing interest in what it has to offer. Its story wastes the potential set up by the level designs, while bosses waste its combat system's potential by having massive health bars whose only effect is that they make each one outstay their welcome. Despite a lot of depth, this one simply fails to make use of its strengths enough for it to be worth a shot. And that's a wrap on the year's titles that might have been more than what they were if things had turned out differently, of course. We're hoping that the talented teams behind these titles lift their chins up and come back stronger than ever with new projects in the years to come. So what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.